that's okay if it's constructive. That's okay if it's like, hey, you need to make sure you're aiming 30 feet more to the right to hit that landing zone next time.
Playing into what your strengths and weaknesses are and figuring out, okay, there's a good chance that I'm not going to hit this line, or there's a good chance I'm not going to get to where I want to be. Where would be a better place to end up?
So let's say now you're on the left side, you've got no chance at saving your par. But if you land on the right side to the middle, you're able to get the par.
Or when you start to get tired, you might be having a great round, but then let's say, you get to hole 12 and 13 and you're just out of gas.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Chain Clankers Disc Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Ferris, here, joined as always by Horatio Gonzalez. We've got a fantastic episode for you guys today. Today, we are going to be talking about how you can salvage your round when you're not playing well. We've all been out on the course not feeling 100%. Maybe it's mentally, maybe it's physically, maybe you're just not all the way there. Today, we are going to give you guys some tips on how you can salvage that round, still put together a good score, and have a fun time while doing it. Let's go ahead. Let's bring in our co-host, Horatio. How are we doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm very interested to see what what people think about this topic, because I'm sure everyone's been there. You'll see, sometimes pros we follow on Instagram and stuff, and they'll post, oh, I was not feeling good today, had a fever, stuff like that. And just however they're still able to get through their rounds, and kind of, we all do it. It's something that's going to happen to everyone at some point. I know for me, it was kind of this last week, I went to doubles. I probably shouldn't have gone. I just really wanted to play those, my kind of like my one day a week that I was able to get out and play. But it was like 107 degrees. I was running on like 3-4 hours of sleep, but I felt like I was kind of fine. And I went out there and I just could not make it happen. Like, I felt bad. And luckily, my partner that I got teamed up with, I've played him before in the past, and he knows kind of like what I'm capable of and like my level of playing. So it wasn't like totally like a new partner to where I was like, man, this guy's freaking awful. Like, so he kind of knew I was out of it. And so he was helping me out, and we were still he was trying to keep me motivated, but definitely I was struggling. I could not, like, my thing is hyzer flips. That's how I'm able to get distance and be able to get more control. And I could not get discs to turn over. Like, my workhorse in my bag is the Hades, and I went OB I think twice just because I could not get it to flip up and turn over. It was just coming out and then just hyzering out, and it was just not. I was just too weak. I think that's kind of what it came out to be, and it kind of got me thinking. And I think 8-9 holes in, I started to change my mindset and some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. But I know you've been there. You've had some of those rounds. And hopefully, if you haven't had this round yet, or if you had it in the past and you kind of didn't know what to do, hopefully these things help you guys out. And tell us what other things, that we didn't talk about today that helps you get through a rough round and save that round. You get to a point where you probably accept the fact that you're maybe not going to win, but you at least want to save that round, come out with some dignity. Or, they always talk about pros, when you're good when your worst round, when you play really bad round, but you still place, or you still cash, or you still do well. And so that's kind of what we're hoping to achieve here is, these are rounds that, you're not feeling good, you play bad, but you do these things to where you're still able to put together a good round. So then, you become that player, you have a bad round, but you still competed. That's what we want to achieve here.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way of putting it together. Everyone has been there. If you haven't been there, congratulations. Hopefully, these things will be able to help you out if you ever are in that situation. I know I've been in that situation, and something that I've just been struggling in my game right now is just, especially with it being so hot, I just cannot mentally play 18. Like I'll be there, and then like halfway through my mental will lapse, and then all of a sudden at the end I'm trying to push really hard and it's too late by then. So I've been implementing these as well. I've seen improvement, playing better, feeling better out there on the course. So hopefully you guys will as well. If you aren't already subscribed to us, make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow button. I think Apple Podcasts just changed it to a follow. So if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts and you never want to miss another episode, make sure you hit that follow button. We do appreciate all the ratings and reviews we've been getting lately. Those are really, really good, and they help us and allow us to get better, And that's what it's all about. We want to get a better product for you guys. But like I said, comment down below if you're watching on YouTube or hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. What would you put on this list if you were making this episode? Horatio, why don't you start us off? What is the first thing that you or someone else can be doing to salvage their round when they're not feeling well?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to talk about today is, just playing conservatively. Like I'll talk about myself in this episode just as an example. So obviously I was very weak. I was running on low energy because of lack of sleep, and then add the heat on top of that. So my body was just not performing at 100%. If you think about it like a car that, maybe drag races, and the car is not tuned and it's not performing to what it normally can, you're not going to get the output. You're not going to get the results that you normally would out of that car. Same with your body. So when your body isn't up to par to what you're normally at, you're not going to be able to do the things that you're used to doing. And once you get not complacent, but you kind of know what level you can play at, it starts to become natural to you and you don't really have to think about it too much. So when you get in these situations when you're not feeling well, you try to do the same things that you have been used to doing, but your body just can't make it happen because you just don't have the energy, you don't have the mental. And so it becomes bad, and then you become to get frustrated because you can't do those things, and then it just kind of snowball effect and it becomes a bad round, which is what we're trying to avoid. And so playing conservatively, what I'm talking about is, because your body is not up to the level that you're used to, you're not going to be able to do those long drives, you're not going to be able to do those accurate shots, because it's not even just about power, but it's about, you're running on low energy, so you can't focus. So then your accuracy is also going to go down. So playing conservative, what I'm talking about is taking a hole that, or a lot of holes that you normally would think that, oh, I can birdie these. These are pretty good birdies. I'm going to be able to attack. Instead of playing on the attack mode, playing less aggressive and playing not necessarily smarter. It's smarter, but just playing more conservatively. Okay. So this hole, normally you would take a birdie 3 out of 5 times. Instead, attacking this hole as a par, going and playing the smart route, playing to where you will be able to get in a landing zone where you'll have an easy upshot. Because if you can't have a good drive, then you're not going to be able to have a good upshot, and then your putt will be hard. So making it as easy as possible for you to get a par in this hole, because we've talked about this before. If you're able to par out on an 18-hole course, you will still be able to cash most of the time. You will still be able to be in that top 10. So if you play these holes that, okay, obviously you could birdie, but instead you play it for a par this round just to be able to get you out of there and save the rest of the low energy that you have to get through that hole 18. Because if you just start attacking holes, you're going to burn that little energy that you do have, and then you're just going to fall apart on the back end. So playing conservatively, making the easier shots, not going for the long drives, just playing the course, nice and smart golf. Basically, is what I would say the first one is.
Yeah, I really like that. And I just kind of want to prove your point a little bit further. Going back to the last big tournament that I played in, the Keeper of the Chains, I want to show you what some of the round scores were in rec for the top 10. So in rec, if you're hitting even, that's fantastic. The best score, the winning score was a +5. So if you're hitting even, that's fantastic. In round 2, but the best score was even, or excuse me, round 1, the guy scored an even. Round 2, he scored a +5, and then the last round he scored an even. So if you statistically do that, if you're anywhere from even to, I'll say +2 or 3, you're probably going to cash most of the time in rec. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what it's like in intermediate. The winning score was a -3. The second place score was an even. So you're looking here now at intermediate. You've got one person in the entire field of, let's see here, how many people played in this? Of 46 people finished under par. Second place was even. Third place was +1. You then go all the way up into advanced MA1. The winning score was a -20. But look at number 8 -4. So like really it's one of those things where if you want to finish inside the top 10, if you want to be consistent, if you want to cash, like I really do think if you can be in that -5 to +5 range, you're going to be okay for most of your rounds. And when you're playing conservatively and you're looking at everything as a par, you're dead center right in that even, you're probably going to score pretty dang good and you're not going to feel like bad. Sure, you're not getting any birdies, but you're not making any mistakes, which Horatio will talk about later. Limiting your mistakes is going to be so important when you're trying to salvage and just survive that round when you're not feeling so well. So I'll let him talk about that here in a little bit. But the first thing that I want to talk about that I think is super important in any round, but especially in these rounds, is landing zones. I made a post about it on our Instagram at Clankers earlier in the week. Landing zones are so critical because it gives you an identifiable place to hit. You're not just, I guess, let me rephrase this. I think it is a bad way to go about it by always aiming for the basket, by always trying to get the ace, by always trying to park it. I think that is bad. I think instead you need to have a target that you're trying to hit that is not the basket, because if you aim directly at the basket, 9 times out of 10, your disc is not going to fly straight at the basket. So you're going to have to move your disc around depending on the wind, depending on what stability is, depending on how you throw it, etc. So landing zones, let's say you've got a 350-foot hole. You know you can't get there in one shot, but you can get to 250. So you need to decide on this fairway, do you want to be straight, left, or right? Let's say the right side is the easiest way to attack the second shot. So you need to do whatever throw works for you to make sure you're landing on the right side around that 250. Because if you land there, now your upshot so significantly easier. Let's assume in this scenario, the left side is extremely wooded. And if you land on the left side, you're in danger and you're probably going to have to take 2 shots to get to the green from there. So if you aim at the basket, which is directly dead center 350, most of the time your disc is going to finish left. So let's say now you're on the left side, you've got no chance at saving your par. But if you land on the right side to the middle, you're able to get the par. So I think it's super important to have these landing zones, and looking at it further, especially when the wind comes into play, if you are approaching the basket and if you put your disc 20 feet behind it and to the left, now you have a headwind. And that's harder depending on who you are. Then maybe you come up 20 feet short to the right. Now you have a tailwind. Maybe that's easier for you. So you want to think about those things about, okay, this is going to be what's easiest for me. Let me put it right there. Not every time does your disc have to get to the basket / past the basket. It's okay to come up 20 feet short and make that putt. That is a-okay because you're still making the putt. Like, put yourself in a position to score the hole easier. I think that's what landing zones are so important. And another great example, if you're in the Wichita area, I want to say it's Horatio's at hole 10 at Oak, where it kind of like goes into like a peninsula-ish green. You've got the OB road, and then you have like the OB sidewalk up top. So it's almost kind of like a piece of pizza is a great way to describe the hole. And the hole's like at the very end where you normally take your first bite, unless you're weird and you eat pizza backwards from the crust, which if you do that, I'm going to say it again, that's weird, but keep doing you. If you know that putting yourself on the left or right side brings in out of bounds, choose your landing zone, finish in the center. Don't allow your disc to finish to the right. Another great example is when there's water. You have to decide, do you want to land over the water? Do you want to land before the water? Do you want to land to the right of the water? Like, where do you want to land? Because if you just go up there and you just throw it, you've got nothing to tell your brain what went right and what went wrong. A great example is when we had our episode with Scott Stokely. Go check it out if you haven't. He teaches us all about, A, his journey in disc golf is incredible. B, he teaches us how to become better putters. And a tip he gave was when you're putting, you want to hold your follow through so your brain can tell what is a good putt, what is a bad putt, what is a make, what is a miss. So if you're able to tell your brain, this is exactly where I want the disc to land, this is the zone I want it to land in, and you hit it, that's good. That's telling your brain that whatever motion you just did is good. Let's repeat it. Where if you've got nothing to give your brain that message, you're just throwing and you're not able to continue to get better and better. My putting has improved so much by doing that one tip from Scott and continuing to work with these landing zones. I'm finding I'm hitting them more and more, and the form is feeling better and better, and the score is being more consistent. Because that's the thing, especially when you're trying to salvage a round. You don't want to go birdie, birdie, double bogey, birdie, bogey, bogey, birdie, par. You know what I'm saying? You want to be consistent. You want to have just good quality holes. And I really do think landing zones will help you so much in doing that.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because that's something that's easy and you can focus on during your round. If you're losing focus, like you said, sometimes you play some rounds with the heat or whatever, and you can't maintain your focus during the round. Landing zones, that's something easy you can focus on. You get to the tee, you have your disc, and don't worry about the distance, don't worry about everything else. Worry about your landing zone. So that's something very easy that you can implement. And I think that will kind of play into the other one that I want to talk about, and that is limiting your mistakes and choosing what mistakes are better. So playing for the better mistake. So obviously, you're not feeling good, you're not playing great, you're going to make mistakes just because you're out of your game, you're out of your norm. And so you have to decide which mistakes you would rather live with and which mistakes are going to be easier to scramble from and maybe not necessarily scramble from. And so if you can implement the landing zones and playing conservatively, and then you throw in choosing the mistakes that you want to make. So let's talk about a hole. Let's say you have a hole that's 320 and maybe it's the fairway is lined with trees on both sides and it opens up in the middle. Or maybe the trees are towards the end and you would normally play the aggressive line and try to get all the way down the fairway. Instead, limiting your mistakes and saying, no, I don't want to be in the trees. I don't want to have to be able to scramble out of there. So what would be the better mistake? The better mistake would probably be to, go for the tunnel shot, but maybe stay to one side. So if you have a forehand, maybe try to land for a right-hand player. If the basket is to the right, try to make the mistake to where your disc will end up on the left side. So then if you have to, you have some sort of a sidearm. If you don't have the sidearm and you only throw backhand, then make the mistake to try to end on the right side. So then you can throw backhand if that's easier for you. So kind of playing into what your strengths and weaknesses are and figuring out, okay, there's a good chance that I'm not going to hit this line, or there's a good chance I'm not going to get to where I want to be. Where would be a better place to end up and still be able to salvage par? So that's kind of what I'm talking about here is, not necessarily getting rid of mistakes because it's going to happen, especially if you're not feeling well, but figuring out which one will be better and to help you save that par. Does that kind of make sense? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, that makes pretty good sense. And like I think it does really well going with the landing zone topic, because when you're not feeling well, you're probably more likely to make a mistake. So you have to pick and choose. Like, you don't want to go out of bounds, so don't even bother attacking over there. Attack a different route. If you are someone who frequently uses the local route, like actually you try to use the local route, maybe this isn't the time to go with the local route. Maybe you should go with something that is a little bit safer to do. And because let's be honest, if you're feeling this way, if you're not feeling the best, it's trying to be consistent. Like I said, you're not trying to go for big swings. You're not trying to go birdie, bogey, bogey, par, birdie. You know what I'm saying? When you do that, you're just making your round worse and you're not accomplishing anything. The score is the same. So playing for that par, doing things that make sense, and like you said, Horatio, if you know that you can make a easier shot for yourself finishing to the left and right or vice versa or whatever the hole dictates, and you know you've been struggling with hyzer flips this round, and more than likely your Hades is going to go straight and then finish left, like, no, play that into your strength. Don't go with something that's going to finish to the right. Know that more than likely it's going to finish to the left and you can set yourself up. Or maybe you just disc down to like a raptor and just accept that you're going to finish left and make the next shot. Like, I really think that the limitation of the mistakes, playing for what is going to be easier for you next time, is going to be super, super helpful. And it's one of those things where when you're not feeling that well, when you're trying to salvage your round, you're not at 100%. So don't try to put 100% into your drives. I think when you try to put 100, 120, 150% into your drives, when you're already not feeling that well, that's A, how you can hurt yourself more, in my opinion, and B, how you're not going to have any control of where you are off the tee. Where you want to focus your energy is on the putting. The putting is what's going to matter the most, because let's say a normal round, that's 100% cool. You're making this 20-foot putt, no problem. But now, because you're not feeling 100%, let's say you're at 70%, you're going to have to put an extra 30% into your putt for it to be your normal putt. You're really going to have to hold your follow through, hold your extension, kick the leg up, do whatever you do when you normally putt. You're really going to have to emphasize that, because if you don't, you're probably going to miss your putts more. And I think it's easier to drive, approach, putt than to try to put all that energy into the drive, and then you get up to your putt, and on that hole you're sank. You know what I'm saying? You're now at 70%, now you're at 40% because you put out all this effort beforehand, and you can't make the 20-footer. You can't even come close to making the 20-footer. So I really think that putting your energy where it's most important, which is putting, is going to be the best for you, and it's going to allow you to save those strokes, because driving in the approach, you're just giving yourself a chance. It's the putting that actually gets it done. And hey, let's say you've got a shorter hole. Let's say it's like a 220-foot hole and you've got an opportunity for a birdie. It's the putt that matters. The drive, yes, you can be close. Yes, you can hit your landing zone. Yes, you can do all those things, but it's the putt that finishes the hole. That's the most important. That's what you need to, and it's just for such a short time. It's for the 20 seconds that you're doing it. Put all of your energy, all of your mental focus into that putt, hold your follow through, do what you normally do, and watch the disc go into the basket. I think doing that is going to help you score better, salvage, survive those bad rounds, get off the course feeling good. Because I know for me personally, I'm more frustrated when I'm missing the putt than when I have a bad drive. You have a bad drive, whatever, you can still salvage it. There's more to be done. When you miss the putt, that is it. The only salvaging you can do is getting the bogey, getting the double bogey, whatever it is. And let's be honest, all of these tips today, it's not like you have to be a pro to get them done. Like, anyone can get these done. You could be brand new to disc golf. This could be the first time you're listening to this podcast. And if that's the case, thanks for checking us out. But this could be the first time you are going out and playing disc golf. If you put 110% effort into your putt, you're going to make more putts than if you're putting 50% effort into them. Where when you're driving, you can put 100% effort into your drive and end at 250, and you can put 50% into your drive and end at 175 and still score the exact same thing. But when you putt and you're putting different energy levels, different focus into it, that's when you see a score separation. That's when pars turn to bogeys, etc. So I really think that just barreling in, giving it your all on those putts are going to be so important.
Yeah, that's great. I think overall, like, the more we talk about this, it's kind of just adapting and trying to overcome, that lack of energy, lack of focus, and doing things that you're not used to doing to get the results that you're more that are going to help you in the long run. And so with that, I want to talk about disc choice. I talk about all the time how I like to throw hyzer flips. I'll throw overstable stuff when I need to, but like I've said before, it takes a lot more energy. Most of the people that can throw like destroyers and nukes and stuff like that, like, it's the pros and the guys and gals that have a ton of arm speed. And there's a place and a time for those really overstable discs. And if you don't have the arm speed, they're not that useful to you. And so, you know, that's kind of why the reason I throw a lot of understable stuff, because to me, my arm speed, my experience, it takes a lot less power and energy to throw those discs. I can pretty much do the same thing, you know, depending on the shots. I can pretty much do the same thing with an understable fairway or an understable distance driver that someone is going to do with an overstable driver, you know. And even we can talk about this on a later episode, but I would argue that sometimes understable drivers are more beneficial for those really, you know, like let's say you have a hole where it just hooks left, it's straight and then just hooks super hard left. Understable discs, they're going to be fighting, you know, put power on them. They're going to be trying to stand up that entire time. And if you don't get them quite to stand up, they're just going to hold that line and try to stand up the entire way, as opposed to a overstable disc that's going to be turning. It's going to go up and just start turning a lot earlier. If that makes sense. The understable disc is going to stand up slightly and then start turning. So it's going to go left a lot farther. At least that's how it works for me, and that's why I like throwing understable stuff. And so if we're talking about, you know, having a run where you're not feeling well, I'm still definitely going to be relying on the understable disc. So I would suggest, you know, if you have a round where you're feeling weak, you're feeling tired, go to your understable discs, because you will be able to get the same distance that you're used to getting, and be able to keep up, because your body's going to be tired. And so it takes a lot less arm speed to throw understable discs and fairways. So also disking down, you know, maybe don't throw the distance driver, go down to the fairway or go down to the mid. I definitely pulled out my mid a ton this last round when I was just super exhausted, because the mid takes a lot less arm speed. So I know I'm tired, I know I'm exhausted, so for me to get the line that I want out of the disc, because I'm tired, it's a lot easier to get that from a mid than it would be from a distance driver, even if it's understable. Because the arm speed will be able to get that mid to stand up, to hold that line, and to turn over if I need to. It'll be a lot easier to do that with a mid than it will a fairway or a distance driver. So choosing the right disc, disking down, because if you're tired, you're exhausted, and you pull out the nuke for the shot and you don't get it to stand up at all, you know, it just comes out and just hyzer immediately because your body's just exhausted. You're not able to pull through it. Everything is off. That that nuke is just going to hook left, you know, and now you're going to be out of the fairway. You're going to be short, you know, as opposed to if you just same shot you had just gone with a neutral mid. Same shot, I guarantee you, you know, it's going to get out a lot further and it's going to look a lot prettier. And then you'll be able to do something with that. So that would be my final one that I'm going to talk about today, is just right disc choice. You know, you're not going to be able to throw the same discs that you normally can at your 100% when you're at your 50 to 60 not feeling well. It's going to take a lot different. You know, that's why there's so many discs, and all discs do kind of different things. And that's why field work is so important. And you need to figure out these discs, just the way that you practice to see what your discs do in the wind. You also kind of need to figure out what your discs do when you're feeling weak, when you're not feeling well, or when you start to get tired. You know, this doesn't, you might be having a great round, but then let's say, you know, you get to hole 12 and 13 and you're just out of gas. You maybe didn't have breakfast, you didn't take any snacks with you, you didn't hydrate, and you're just out of gas. And so now you had a great round. You know, let's say you were under three, or you've been getting some birdies, no bogeys, and you're just having a phenomenal round, but you're now just out of energy. Um, and you have the discs that you have, you know, let's say you're playing a tournament, and if you try to continue to throw the same discs that you've been throwing during that first half of the round, it's probably not going to work out, because you don't have the stamina to be able to get those discs to do what they were doing when you started and you were full of energy. So now you have to choose, and you have to adapt, you have to change your game, and you have to play smart.
Do you have a mid-round snack of choice, Ratio?
I like peanuts, beef jerky, um, I like to do like biscuits, like what are those little coconut butter biscuits? I'll
Mm,
take one of those. They're nice and easy. You don't have to be constantly getting beef jerky is good, but makes my hands sticky and you
mm,
have to be like kind of constantly eating it.
mhm.
A little coconut butter biscuit, just eat it halfway through the round and then I'm good to go.
Yeah, cool. I don't think I've ever eaten anything out on the course. I think low key, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm really hungry right now. But like a breakfast burrito or like a hot dog just sounds great out there. I don't know why. Literally, don't take that. Don't have a breakfast burrito or a hot dog out there on the course with you. But I don't know. Sounds kind of delicious right now, if you ask me. But let's talk about our last one here. And I think this is the most important one, everyone. Have fun. Golly, just have fun. Try to put a smile on your face, be your own hype man, those kinds of things. Like there is literally scientists out there who have done the work that have proven that like when you smile, it releases chemicals in your body that makes you feel better. So like forcing yourself to smile will make you happier about your round. Telling yourself, that was a really good putt. Hey, good drive. Talking to yourself, hyping yourself up mentally. Like, I really think that's so important. And just in all of life, if you have a good attitude, good things are going to happen to you. If you have a bad attitude, bad things are going to happen to you. You have a bad first hole and then you have a bad second hole and then you give up, you're going to have a bad round. You have a great example for me personally is the last round of that tournament. I bogeyed hole one because I hit a branch that I didn't think was possible, but I hit a branch, came up really short, had to do a crazy upshot, put myself to 33 feet, and I chained out on the putt. I literally hit full chains and it just bounced off. It happens. And so I took a bogey, came back at the very next hole, and this was a long one. And I put myself to about 38, made that step putt. If I would have had a bad attitude, I would be +2, +1 to start the round. But instead, I was back to even because I was able to have a positive mindset, told myself, it's okay. It's one hole. There's plenty of golf left. Let's keep your head up and let's keep going. Keep pushing. You have to have a good mindset and hype yourself up and tell yourself you're doing things good. And I've said this story so many times, so I'm not going to say the full one, but like when you are mean to yourself and you're like, you suck, you're bad, that does nothing but give your body confirmation bias that you do suck and you are bad. No matter what skill level of disc golfer you are, if you tell yourself you suck, you're going to have a worse round than if you tell yourself you're good. You're being positive, whatever it is. Like if you want to have criticism, that's okay if it's constructive. That's okay if it's like, hey, you need to make sure you're aiming 30 feet more to the right to hit that landing zone next time. Okay, cool. You can take that and you can move along with it. Hey, you have to actually putt with force if you want to get there. Okay, that's cool. Hey, maybe you shouldn't go with your overstable distance driver. Maybe you should pull out an understable mid or fairway. Cool, constructive criticism. But when you tell yourself you suck, you're not good at disc golf, this sucks, I hate being here, that's when everything gets thrown away. There is no salvaging the round. There is no surviving this. This is just making yourself hate disc golf, which at the end of the day, most people listening to this show play disc golf for fun. You're out there to have a good time. You're wanting to get better. Obviously, we all want to get better. We all want to be as best as we possibly can be, but you're not on the pro tour. You're not winning thousands of dollars a year by playing disc golf. And if you are, that is fantastic. But most people are not going to do that. So you have to remember you are out there to have fun. If disc golf is not fun because you're constantly being mean to yourself, maybe you should take a week or two off to feel good about it the next time you go out there. Like I really just think having a bad mindset and a bad attitude is going to kill your round, no matter what it is. There is no salvaging the round if you have a bad attitude.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I can speak to that for this last weekend. I'm playing doubles. I know I said a couple of times, after just how bad my shots were. They weren't even bad. They were just not what I needed. Um, but I just said a couple of times, I was like, I should have stayed home today. And my partner heard me because I tried to, I try to have fun, even though if I'm not playing great or whatever, especially because, doubles, it's important, keep that vibe up. But I said a couple of times, I should have stayed home today, and not even just complaining or moaning because I was not playing great. Like obviously I wasn't, but it was more honest. Like I should have stayed home. And some days, if the easiest way to avoid that bad round is to just stay home. And that day, I did have fun. I didn't play, and I was more upset. I had fun because the people I was with, it's people I go to doubles all the time. They're all buddies. They're all great, you know, and it was nice out. I got to get out of the house, got to play. So I still had a fun time, but I was upset with my round, upset with my performance. And so I was just being honest, kind of just, speaking out loud. I should have stayed home. And there are those days where maybe, if you're not feeling good, you're feeling weak, you're maybe mentally not there. And instead of going to that league night or whatever, if if it's going to make you more upset because you're not going to be able to focus and play well, just stay home or just go play a practice round somewhere where you're not going to be keeping score, somewhere where it's not going to be, for a rating or anything. Go and just go have some field practice, get that bad energy out, or just do some putting. Putting doesn't take as much energy. So yeah, I would say, to avoid a bad round, if you're not feeling well, just stay home if that's what it takes. But if not, and you want to, maybe have a tournament, you already paid the money, or, maybe it's the second round of the tournament or something, so you have no choice. Hopefully these things can help you. These tips are able to help you put that round together. And let us know if you've been there before, what helped you finish that round strong? What helped you get out there, with some dignity and feeling proud as opposed to, just upset because it was just a bad time.
Yeah, and if you want to continue to learn how to be a better disc golf, improve your disc golf game, make sure you hit the subscribe/follow button wherever you're listening to us at. Last episode, we had Maria Olivia on the show. Make sure you check it out. She talks to us about how you can be more consistent in your tournaments, which I think we can all get a little bit more consistent. So make sure you guys check that one out. Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.